Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for logging into our panel today. I can guarantee you we have a great panel of experts to share with you. Um, I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Scott McCormick. I am the CEO of Emergent Enterprise, which is twofold. First of all, it's a consulting, and I can help companies with emergent technologies in different ways, whether in strategy or project management or whatever role you might need. And then also, I'm the editor of emergententerprise.com, which is emergent-enterprise.com, which is a emergent technology website, a news website that shares articles about how enterprises are using these kinds of technologies like virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality, which is our topic today, especially in the enterprise in marketing and sales. And that's why you're here, to hear us talk. So what I'm going to do is I've got three great panelists, like I said, here today. We have Mark from Mars, the company that you probably associate with candy, but there's so much more to it. I'm going to let him explain it. And then David from Toyota, and many of you probably have a Toyota in your driveway, in your garage right now. So it'll be exciting to hear how Toyota is using AR in sales and marketing. And then finally, Jeff of Andersen Window and Doors, and again, you probably are using their great products. So we're going to start with Mark. Mark, just briefly introduce yourself, and then I have a provocative question to start each of you guys with. And so introduce yourself and then answer this question. Now, augmented reality is very cool. Let's admit it. When we try it and we do it, it's the shiny technology. But we're trying to augment reality or replace reality. I mean, what can be better than reality? So what does augmented reality bring to the table to make that marketing or sales experience so much better? Mark, let's get started.
Well, thank you for that introduction. I'll give you a really quick piece. So I'm Mark Christensen. I've been with Mars now for 5 years in the digital workplace team, and we are an internal team that provides the digital collaboration user experience engagement for 150,000 Martians, we like to call ourselves, worldwide. And we are a 110-year-old company now, family owned. And while many people think of us as the candy company, we own the Wrigley brands and probably a ton of brands that you know. We have Food and Uncle Ben's, or Ben's Original now, renamed, and very huge in pet care, so Pedigree and the veterinary health services. So definitely have a wide range of products and services that many people use every day. Why is AR necessary? I think it's the gateway to the metaverse. It is the shallow end of the pool, so to speak. It's the way that we're going to get people into an extension of reality and understanding. AR puts, it's removing the visualization barriers and gaps in understanding. And what we're going to talk about here is if a picture is worth 1,000 words, AR adds the richness and increases understanding through a sense of scale, space, and perspective. So I read that off my notes, but essentially that just goes and gives you, if a picture is the 2D representation, AR is that 3D representation. And the more that you can give people to make decisions without the ambiguity of words, then I think it just creates a depth of solution.
Cool, thanks, Mark. Those are great points. Now, David, at Toyota, you've kind of been a pioneer in your company in bringing these new technologies to not only things like training and other areas within the enterprise, but sales and marketing as well. So give us a brief intro to you, but also why you felt it was necessary to start bringing in this platform to sales and marketing.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I work for Toyota Motors North America, so we have both Lexus and Toyota brands under us, and I'm actually part of the IT division. So when I created ATRL, which is the Applied Technology Research Lab, it was a way to make something that was fast, so we can do innovations really quickly at a low cost, but also allowed me to go across the company. And so what I saw happening was a shift in our market demand. And kind of building off of what Mark said, AR now gives you that extra layer of information, that 3D representation, but because our market demand shifted to online, so 80% of our car buyers right now start their buying journey online. So going to the dealership is no longer an option. So basically our customers have negated reality. They want something different. So now they're online, and a website just isn't enough. I now have to educate them about the vehicle, open up our whole portfolio of products to them. So every color combination, accessory combination, allow them to visualize it, interact with it, and then get them excited to get that conversion to happen. Because when they come to the dealership, they've already down selected, and they're going to look at one or two cars and make a decision. So I have to get them excited early. And that's why I thought AR would be a way to do that, to do the education and hopefully the conversion to purchase.
Yeah, I think every retailer has found out whatever they're selling, whether it's something as small as a candy bar or as big as an automobile, the consumer is coming in much more educated or predetermined of what they want to purchase. And so to be able to close that transaction, AR can really help finish the deal. Okay, so we've heard from Mark, we've heard from David, and Jeff is here from Andersen. And Jeff, I had a thought yesterday that I thought was really interesting, in that the fact that you make doors and windows of great quality, this is a tremendous product. You've always been in the business of having to try the challenge of having customers try to see what your product's going to look like right in their home. That's a big challenge, isn't it?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so Andersen's been around 118 years. We've been a company that's been, to your point, building windows and doors for a long time, and the business has changed. Obviously, David and Mark, the internet is like supercharged customers trying to figure how they're going to get information around our product, how they're going to get visuals of our product. And one of the things that we work towards is the fact that how do I change their experience with us? So we really did lean into augmented reality a few years ago with one of our business models, and it's the closest business that we have to the consumer. So we are very much able to provide visuals of all of our configurations of our products in the home in augmented reality, totally eliminating the need of salesman samples and traveling from their home to get to showrooms and stuff. We basically bring that digital showroom right to their experience.
Great, that's excellent. So guys, when I come to any conference, whether it's in person or virtual, one of the things I just love to hear about are actual use cases, things that are really being tried or used right in the field. So for instance, I'm working with a company that does big conferences, or at least hopes to in the near future. And one of the challenges they have is when you go into the expo hall and you want to find a particular booth, and all you have in there is a map that is in this book on page 117 or something, and your booth number is 724B. You don't know how to get there, so we're looking at a mobile application that would put augmented wayfinding right to the booth within the expo hall. So I want to hear from you guys, and we're going to go backwards of what we just did, because like in football, if a running back has a good run, you give him the ball again. So we'll go right back to Jeff. And Jeff, what's one project that you're using in the field that you want to share kind of right off the bat here?
Yeah, so we actually use augmented reality in our renewal business, our home remodel replacement business, and we literally have created an experience both online and in the home for the consumer, where they'll go through our order tools. They'll be looking at products and like all of you guys, and we experience it every day, visualizing the complexities of features and options. It's really tough for people to do. And it's really tough to have them look at design language and colors and how they go together within their own home. So what we decided to do was we took and created a full 3D photorealistic rendering machine for our products for the sales tool. And then we extended that right into augmented reality. So once they think they've picked what through the order tool what they want to get, then we say, what do you want to see it in your home? So then we can literally lift that 3D augmented reality model and place it in the opening where it's going to go in their home, and they can actually look at it. And we can do configurations of grills and hardware and colors and whatever they want right there in the opening of their home. So it's made a huge change for people to actually choose the right products long-term for their homes.
Yeah, they can purchase with much more confidence and not feel like once it all gets installed that they don't like it. You don't. Right. Neither one of you want to be in that position.
No, for sure.
For sure. Dave, okay. How about Toyota? What's happening in your world with an actual project?
Well, it's actually very similar to Jeff's. So we focused in on accessories, and this is called an Accessory Visualizer. I think the official name is TAR, Toyota Accessory Augmented Reality. Anyways, we're working on the name.
They have an acronym.
Yeah. So the idea is we're going to capture an existing vehicle, whether it's at the dealership or even at someone's home. You're going to lock onto a physical vehicle with an iPad or an iPhone, and then you're going to fly on accessories to it, so you can see what your vehicle would look like with the accessories. And the whole idea is we're trying to fill that gap where we don't have the dealerships don't have a full inventory of all the accessories for that particular vehicle, and people, once they have it at home, they can then also see what their vehicle will look like with accessories. We found that usually when people buy accessories, right at point of sale, and also that first 3 years. And then we also have evidence that shows that, when the vehicle's a hand-me-down, when the children inherit the vehicle, then they want to accessorize it too. But right now we're just focusing on that first 5 years of ownership. And again, there's a similar problem. We don't have, dealerships don't have all the accessories on hand. People can't visualize, taking that leap from a magazine or from any type of a showroom type thing. Say, what does it look like on my car? And then what are the combinations? So this actually helps them out a lot. Right now, it's in 3 dealerships, one outside the Chicagoland area, one in San Francisco, and then another one up in Portland. And so we're just gathering feedback right now, and then we're going to deploy it out probably later this year.
Okay. I'm near Chicago, so I might want to talk to you to just go up to see that and experience it. I would love to see that. That's really incredible. Okay, Mark, I'm not going to let you choose which projects to talk about because I already know of one that really intrigues me. And we're coming up to Halloween, which must be one of your favorite times of year there at Mars, because it's a holiday where everyone has to buy candy. What a great holiday. We walk down the candy aisle at the grocery store. There is an incredible competition to get our attention. So we reach over and buy your product off the shelf. And you've worked really hard with AR to have your salespeople that have boots on the ground use AR to help grocery store owners and managers visualize your retail setups. Can you share about that? I think it's really incredible.
Yeah, so Halloween is our Christmas. So it's our biggest event of the year. So everybody go out there, buy candy. So most of the people that are probably watching this are our consumers. So the people who consume our product, and our customers in this case are the stores which sell the product. And one of the things that we realized was if you go into your store, hopefully you've already seen them, those big giant displays, cardboard or otherwise, that dominate a section of the store to promote their holiday branded. But they're usually large and ornate, and those are discussions that we have with those stores. So normally you go in and you say, here's a photo of it and here's the size, and you're dependent on memory and someone's visualization skills, and then also their availability to go to the front of the store. And so the Mars Augment app solves that problem by letting the salesperson go ahead, visualize a very large display or different displays at different sizes in the same space, take a photo. And if the manager is available, then you can go up front, you can kind of take them through, they can virtually walk through, say with an iPad. But they can also go through and take photos and then go in the back and say, look, this is what it looks like in there. And this is meant to reduce returns and just the thought process of what is this going to look like in my store? Is it going to be too big? And is not, because if it's too much, it doesn't get set up and it's no good to us. So it really has helped us to kind of enrich the understanding of the product and the placement before the actual event itself. And so that's what we're looking at, is trying to make that more efficient. So definitely a customer facing solution as we look into more of the other applications for AR here that potentially could be consumer driven, but at this point we're looking at the customers.
Yeah. Well, we'll never look at the candy aisle the same way again. Just knowing that big setup started with some augmented reality. Okay, guys, now listen, and David, I'm going to start with you on this one. There's people attending right now and watching and thinking, boy, we barely have anything like this within our company to start ramping up a project like this, and I would love to do it. I'm not sure I even know where to start. And I feel like all three of you guys were kind of in that ground floor, almost doing a little startup company within your big company. And so, David, let's start with you. How did you get things going? How did you get the ball moving and working with stakeholders and even the end users, finding the right people to be on your team? That's a lot to do. How do you get things going?
Yeah, that it really is, what a difficult question is, where do you start? So the way I started was, I actually built a small little app myself. And in fact, I just scanned in a little vehicle and said, look what I can do to this. And it was not photo realistic. It was really crude. And I just used that as to start a conversation. So here's something that I just did in a few hours. Would this be worth something to you? And the first place I found was actually in training. I was talking to the Lexus college folks, and they're like, we have a problem with having to train all our dealership personnel on the new vehicles that come out with all the new features. And what we have been doing is flying them all to a central location, spending a week training them out, and then flying them back out. And by the time they get back to their dealership, they've forgotten everything they learned. And so what we did is I basically built this, we called it the Lexus AR kit at the time, or the LARK. And the idea was it would do image recognition, and then it would tell you what that feature was. So if dynamic cruise control, we'd have all the information about that. And what we had, so this was great as a dealer training tool, but what we didn't realize was we actually built an owner's manual by mistake, because now all of a sudden the dealers are saying, oh, here, you don't have to come back if Joe customer, once you buy the vehicle, we'll just give you this app and you don't have to come and talk to us again. And we didn't realize this was happening until we started talking and we said, oh, look at that. We have a secret use case that we didn't even know about. And so that was our first success. And then once you have one success, you can then use that to build for others. Funding is always difficult to come by. And in our industry, the problem is building out the digital twins. That's a huge investment. And we're still trying to solve that problem.
I think that's so interesting that you built it as a training app, but that it ended up in the hands of the consumers. But it shows you the usefulness of these AR apps and how they can be more than just for your target audience. Okay, Jeff, how'd you get things started over at Andersen?
Yeah, I think very similar to David. Basically, took a path of creating our own kind of experience and our own little lab to get this thing kicked off, where we actually had to learn more about this technology than just try to create use cases. I mean, familiar with it, yes. Understood it, not really, right? So I would say the first part of the time we did was really trying to understand what this technology was capable of doing, and then start to find use cases, not big, massive use cases, but things that you can turn over quick. and start showing some of the decision makers on what the possibilities are. I would say from our standpoint, what we learn the most is proof of concepts. They're huge, right? Visually seeing what you're trying to explain to them is easier than just explaining to them. There's a lot of times when I would talk to somebody, they'd be like, I have no idea what you just said. How about if I show it to you, right? So once we started to create these quick proof of concepts, then the ball started rolling, and then they started to become more interested in, and then the use cases just start coming your direction. And the big ones then started to come in where you speak about funding, right? It takes good proof of concepts and a good education path for people to understand what you could do with it, and the funding will come. But yeah, that's how we started.
Okay. So it sounds like proof of concept's a real way to go, and it doesn't have to be incredibly polished
Right.
for people to start understanding the concepts. Mark, are you finding the same experience there?
Yeah, I think it mirrors a lot of that. If you want to be in this role, I think you'll find that this is new ground. It won't fall into any one area. It's obviously a technology role, but for me, it was a matter of passion. Like, I had a passion for the technology for what it was. There really wasn't. If you wait for someone else to do it, it never usually happens until you're too late. And so if you want to lead in this space, then I would say the advice I would have would be pick it up, take your passion for the technology, and then you kind of walk that around. But one of the keys, and I think both David and Jeff kind of hit on it, is you got to give somebody something tangible to latch onto. You can talk to them all day long, but when you tell somebody what a hologram or a 3D object and augmented reality, it's not until you put something in front of them that they have what I like to call the aha moment. You see the smile on their face, it clicks, and so what you have to do if you want to be in this role is you have to be willing to go ahead and put yourself out there and do general things that say, this is just what the technology is. Let's just give you a frame of reference, and then you back off and you give them the space to kind of absorb it, get to that aha moment, brighten up, and then they'll come back to you and say, could we do this? And as soon as you get the could we do this, then you're off to the races, because at that point now they've got the general understanding, or you can help them take them the rest of the way. But at that point, then it's a matter of going and saying, they're giving you a case study. And that's what you want to do is don't try to overthink it. Don't try to give them their case study. Just walk them in the room, show them the technology, show them the capability, and then say, what do you want to do with it? You tell me. And then you walk through it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would give anybody if you're in this and struggling or thinking about getting into this. That's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that aha moment. When the Oculus Quest first came out, I started bringing that with me to my presentations at conferences, and I would have some of the attendees put that on and use it while I was speaking, and you would think that would be distracting, but it actually showed that aha moment in reality as people were listening to what I had to say, because that person over there would be just going, oh, that's really cool, amazing. And that would spark the interest of, hey, I want to try that. That sounds cool. Okay, that's the good side of the coin in introducing new technologies to your audience, whoever they might be. The other side of that coin is there's pushback for all sorts of reasons. From your users, it can be fear of technology. And from your management, it's that same old thing. Hey, how is this going to make us better? How is this going to make us money? How is this going to make our sales figures better? How is this going to increase our marketing awareness, our brand awareness? So I want to go to each one of you. And so, David, I'm going to start with you. How have you dealt with different kinds of pushback to emergent technology within your company?
Well, thanks. There's a lot of pushback, as you mentioned, within the realm of marketing and sales. The pushback is usually on, how would this increase our bottom line? And with that, I have to show some evidence that, we know from other campaigns that we have an uptick of maybe 0.5%, like let's say we do a Toyotathon event. Then I say to them, so now if that's just for an 8-week sprint, what would you say if I could expand this to all 12 months? Would you be interested in something like that? And then I have the numbers behind. So that would be an uptick of so many unit sales, which would relate to an ROI. And once you get them starting to talk about that, we can do this, you get their interest. And I said, well, I don't want you to commit to a nationwide campaign or anything. Let's do that proof of concept first. Let's do something small that you can invest in that's tolerable, or we'll do a joint investment type of thing. A lot of people shy away when they basically have sticker shock. When the managers and senior managers see that, they're like, oh my God, this costs too much. So you have to kind of, temper that down a little bit by saying, okay, we can either do mixed funding from different divisions, definitely do a proof of concept where it's a smaller scope so the investment isn't as large. I found those as always being successful ways of doing it. The other pushback I get to is like, we already have established sales channels. Why would I do this, or wouldn't this be disruptive? And then you have to convince them, no, we're actually not only doing augmented reality, but we're augmenting our existing sales channels. We're still funneling people to the dealerships. The biggest fear is, oh, we're going to cut the dealerships out of the equation. Like, no, we're not going to a pure .com thing. We're actually helping the dealers make more money by bringing in more people to their stores, because we're still funneling. And that's how all the .coms, Toyota.com, Lexus.com, they funnel people to the dealership as they make their decision. The other side of this is, when dealerships push back, because they're usually wants to say, I don't want any technology in my place. I explained to them, said, well, right now, you have to maintain a sales floor, you have to have a large inventory, all this because you have to be able to anticipate the customer's demand. What if you could get, slice your sales force in half, not have as large of an inventory because the whole thing's here in augmented reality? That gets their attention. You're like, wow, I can decrease my footprint, which decreases my rent. I can decrease my overhead. I don't have to maintain this inventory. I can go to just in time. That gets their attention. So depending on who I'm talking to, I always have to tailor the conversations. This will save you money, or this will make you money. And then it's always start small and grow into it. Again, to get that initial buy-in. And that's usually how I approach this.
Okay, cool. Boy, I never thought of that. So you can make an argument to decrease inventory because of AR, sort of making you almost have unlimited inventory.
Exactly.
Wow.
So really I'm trying to make the whole catalog available to the dealership without them having to have acres of vehicles.
Yeah.
And that I actually borrowed that from the European model, where they don't have acres of parking lots to put vehicles. They've adopted this much earlier. All your German automotive makers have gone to more of a virtual showroom, where you typically go to a showroom, but it's all big screens and maybe even some glasses. In North America, that doesn't work as well. We tried a few experiments a few years ago with that. But still, you can never anticipate what the customer wants. I always use the West Texas dealership example. He sells a lot of Tacomas and Tundras, but every once in a while, someone will come in looking for a Prius, and of course, he's not going to have a Prius on his lot. And how does he address that customer? Does he send him away? No, you don't want to do that. You got him there. You want to close the deal. So this is one way to do it. He could have a virtual tour of a Prius and say, give me a day and I'll get one here for you. Which color do you want? And kind of get, go through the customer's desires and meet them.
Yeah, interesting.
So.
Okay, Mark, we're talking about pushback. How have you dealt with it?
Well, misunderstandings or missed opportunities. Anytime we have an opportunity to create clarity is another way to be efficient. And efficiency saves money. In our case, returns on the product that comes back. If there was a misunderstanding, then we've got that physical thing. But we also have this. There's a few different things you can do in this space. It's the fear of missing out. Do you want to lead in this space? And if you want to lead in this space, you're going to have to take those risks, and that comes with a certain investment. But it's a learning investment, and that's what I try to tell people, is that we're paying to learn the lessons and get out in front and get ahead of this and be there. So how much is that worth to you? But it's always a sensitivity. It's always looking at it and saying, what's the ROI on these types of things? But it's new ground. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, and you can say, there's some ways that you can look at those gaps, like those returns. There's some physical, dollars that are involved. And there's other things that we don't have to trade dollars off. If our salespeople are out on the floor and they're competing with our competitive brands for that floor space, for instance, in our case, is normally you might get into that like, well, I'm going to give you this or I'm going to give you that, and but you don't underestimate the ability to come in and say, this is like, we're going to visualize this. It's the cool factor. It's the, we invest in the relationship between us and the customer. So if all things were equal, instead of trading dollars, you could look at it and say, these are the kinds of investments we're making in our relationship. And that has an actual worth. And then we've seen that, I think that people want to work with the people who are doing the cutting edge because they feel like they're going to do something that's going to drive sales.
Very good. Jeff, deal with any pushback, or do you have a pushback-free company?
I don't know if there is such a company out there. I'd like to meet it if there is. Yeah, I think, I echo both David and Mark, right? We went through a lot of things. We did a lot of learning, and we tried to do a lot of educating along the way, especially with our leadership team, to understand what this could bring. And, some of the interesting things that happened for us were, our initial thoughts on where our first use case would go was what we were asking for support on. And the cost of content, I think David said it earlier, right? It's probably one of the biggest hurdles or barriers to get into this if you want to do it the right way. So plan for that when you're going in, right? Because you're going to go ask for some pretty substantial dollars to do content. But what we actually did is we found an internal use case where we were starting up a new facility. And I said, well, what if I could show you that facility and equipment with augmented reality before it even showed up, right? And everybody's like, well, can you really do that? Because sure, a lot of companies do PSDs where they do cardboard and wood structures and everything else. We literally did it using augmented reality. So we took an entire facility, manufacturing, and we laid out the whole new Lien system. And we used animation, so the robots were running and everything. And we gave the headsets to our executive team and said, go look at your money. Here it is. It's out there. This is what you're going to get. That triggered enough interest for them to say, man, if you can do that internal for us, the cost savings is huge from time and labor. How can we actually take a serious look at this for an external use? And you just kind of have to work your way through it. It's not easy. You're not going to get everybody patting you on the back and saying, great idea. You're going to get skeptics on people wanting to wear headsets and all of the things that go along with that. You just work through it. Persistence, drive your passion, stay on it. It'll come through, but it's work.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do a little kind of a lightning round here, and tell me, Jeff, we can stay on you. Tell me a hardware and a software that either or both that you really like to use in this platform.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of them, right? I think we use Unreal because of the quality. We get really good photorealism out of the Unreal platform and the renderings. And then there's a couple of hardware devices. We use a lot of Apple for the in-home selling business, so we're using iPads all the time. And obviously their quality of augmented reality models is insane, right? They look like real models. But when it comes to headsets, we've used the Microsoft HoloLens instances, and we actually had really good luck with Magic Leap. As they were cranking along there for a while. I liked them better than the Microsoft from a form factor. But again, they're still kind of trying to find their way, but that's kind of where we're at with it.
Okay. David?
From the sales side, I really prefer the iOS operating system, just because there's like 250 million devices out there, so everyone has one in their pocket. And then the photorealism is fantastic, and it's with the AR kit, it's really easy to put your images in there. Kind of like what Jeff was saying, when we go internal to Toyota, we tend to use HoloLens, and remote assist is usually our entry point, and that's more for helping out a technician somewhere, just call for help. And then we're using a lot of Microsoft guides as well for the step-by-step instructions for like accessory installs and things of that nature. And that's kind of where I'm focused right now. Yeah, so it depends. If I'm outward facing, it's iOS. If it's internal facing, it's Microsoft.
Yeah, and iOS 12, iPhone 12, which is what I have, has some really interesting AR capabilities that were not available before. So that's very cool. Mark, hardware, software?
On the external side, we did start in iOS for all the same reasons that that Jeff and David talked about. The LiDAR scanning is starting to become something like, how can we get objects in, even if you do rough cut? So that's definitely something internally. We're a Microsoft house, so HoloLens definitely has been leading on an internal for augmented reality. And most recent, in fact, yesterday, we were just in conversations with their Power Apps team to actually leverage the mixed reality, which is augmented reality, their version, in Power Apps in order for us to be able to service our 150,000 associates better across platform by using through Teams and through Power Apps. Would let us kind of bridge that gap. So we're actually just starting the journey there to see about using mixed reality and try to solve some of our mixed bring your own device solutions globally.
Okay. So I talked about upper management, and they always want metrics. Like, show me, they give you the approval that you can use it and do it. But on the other end, I want to see how this has improved things. What have you done as far as metrics go? Is it money saved? Is it increase in sales? What is it? And Mark, we'll just go right back to you. Is there a good example of metrics that have really helped you in your argument?
The metrics come. I mean, you can look at it and say, where did they look? What, you see, gaze time. You have the different things you can look at for that. It's a tricky situation because it looks like it depends on the audience you're talking to and the leader that you're talking with. But I think the overwhelming thing is the experience. You want to delight the user, whoever's on the other side of that. If they walk away from that experience and say, that was really cool, I have a better understanding, I could do something faster, it was more engaging, it sticks in the memory. We talk about all the things people have to suck up and keep in your brain. I'll tell you, if you can create a more enriched environment, more senses are involved, and then they have to recall going to X, Y, and Z. Yours is going to be what they remember most because there's more things. It's more of the tactile, more of the visual, more of the spatial. And so that is something that I lean on quite a bit, is that go talk to the people who have done these experiences and who they shared it with, and ask them what their experience was like. And that has value. That comes back and says, Mars is doing awesome. This was really cool. So yeah, it's gonna increase our engagement with the customer. And I think that's probably a big selling point for us, is the user experience.
Okay, user feedback. Jeff, how about you? Any metrics with uses of AR?
Yeah, that was one of the number one things that we were asked, right? Is this going to move the needle for us if we do this? If we invest in this technology. So as we rolled out the in-home selling tool, one of the metrics that we captured was the amount of times that augmented reality was actually used during the selling process. That kind of give us an idea of if they were using it, right? And two, those that are using it more, is it actually moving close rates on deals? And what we did find out is that we have some, let's call them junior salesmen in the process that aren't real accustomed to the old ways of doing things, that started to leverage the technology more because it was cool to them too, right? And they probably have some of the highest close rates we have. Right. So I think it's a learning that these other salesmen are starting to say, wow, their close rates are higher than ours, and they're using augmented reality more than we are. What do we need to do? Right. And I think it kind of falls back on the technology too. I mean, we talked about iOS. That business model of ours is all on the iOS platform, right? But the hardware, you can run it a long time, the old iPads. Well, you can't necessarily have a really good experience with the new stuff. So getting them to upgrade their hardware to the new, iPad 12s or whatever it's going to take to get LiDAR is huge. And it makes a huge difference to the consumer as well in the experience. So,
yeah. Close rates, David, that's a good metric, isn't it?
It certainly is. We have a hard time measuring that. We don't know what gets them to close. We know there's an emotional bond, and that's what usually gets them to close on a vehicle. But we don't know really if AR is having much of an impact. So what we measure is, I'm going to echo Mark, is, did the user come away with a good experience? Did they go, wow, I really like that? And then that leads them to trust the brand and get them to come back more. So, the real metrics, I think Jeff just said this too, that we use is, how often are they using it? Did it go viral? Is there now, word of mouth happening? And, was it a good experience? That's both for our internal and external. If we make it easy, we make it photorealistic, we get happy customers, and they come back and they make a purchase. And that's really what we're looking for. Is we're trying to hide all the, and I guess both Mark and Jeff probably back now, we're trying to hide all that technology, hard work that we put into this and make it look like it's just natural.
Yeah.
And they should be able to use it the same way too.
Yeah, frictionless.
Yes.
And that's a great point, is these devices are data collectors. So you can see, if you have good analytics, you can see where people are spending their time and how they act and respond and that sort of thing. That's a great point. Well, guys, believe it or not, we're getting close to the end of our time. Maybe we end with kind of words of inspiration for those folks that are in attendance here, which we thank you for attending. What would you say to them, whether they're already doing it or thinking about doing it, about just sort of an inspirational go get them and encouragement of using AR in sales and marketing? David, we'll go right back to you.
Okay, I would encourage people to start small, because this way it doesn't cost much when you fail. And you are going to fail. Either you're going to overreach technology, or you're just going to have the bad use case. But you learn from that, and you go and you do it again. So it's, start small and don't give up, and then the project will grow.
All right, very good. Mark, how about you?
Definitely fail fast. That's the one way, the one tenet that we have is learn the lesson. And if you're going to spend the dollars, then you better walk away with a lesson. So either have a win or a lesson. And that's where you're spending your money. And I think that's the thing, but do it with passion. You have to have somebody, you can't, this is not a half-hearted thing. You have to go in there, you have to want that. And this is new ground. You're going to find different ways to use this. So don't sit back and think you know everything. Introduce the technology, listen to what's being said and how people are engaging, and then take those. Those are where you're going to go. You're not going to try to sell them on the technology. Show them the capability. They'll tell you where they want to employ it, but just do it with passion. Okay,
very good. Jeff?
Yeah, I echo, the same sentiments. I think what I learned, and I think what you could probably take away with this is listen to people around you and find other people with a passion, maybe not in your organization, and pull them in and let them help, because other areas of the business will help drive success for you, right? And you can't do it all yourself. And fail fast, absolutely. We fail as fast as possible. Nobody likes to fail, but that's not really what it's meant. It's learn really is what you're trying to do with this thing and move on to the, improvements. So yeah, I would say just keep an eye on, other areas of your business and people that'll gravitate towards you, that are starting to show an interest, and pull them in, use them, because they're going to be an ally during this whole thing. So
yeah. And what I've found, even if you can't scrounge up the dollars to do a project like this, you just get pushback. Just like you guys are saying, do a small proof of concept yourself. I think, David, that's how you said you first started, and start showing people. So what that means is you have to understand this technology and what it's capable of. So when you're walking around your plants, when you're walking around your customer stores, when you're walking around the houses of potential customers, you can start to see the potential of AR in circumstances, whether it's in sales and marketing, and then go, hey, you know what? I know that one particular application that would work great right here in my own world, and then start in on that. And then it's like a wildfire. It starts catching on with other places. And then, like you guys have said, once you have success stories, then you don't have to do as much convincing, because you can just point to that and say, this is how it works, and the light goes on. Guys, this has been so great. I really appreciate your expertise. We're going to stop the panel right now, but we are available for questions for 10 minutes. And so I know I speak for all of you. Thank you to all the attendees that have shown up. And feel free to contact any of us with questions that you might have about things we've said or about our worlds, and we'll be happy to answer those.